right? You were speaking, and I mean this in the most respectful way, you were speaking to the lowest in men. You're speaking about despair, about pity, about wickedness. And I was wondering, what would you say to the person who is happy to face a hangover in the morning just because, you know, they had a great night and they are happy to be alive and go on doing the things they do? And I was wondering if you think it is possible that the essential worthiness in human beings comes, or in living beings in general, comes from our power of self-expression. And if you think that autonomy, which is not the same as self-sufficiency, reflects on the way that you can respect the power of self-expression of every living being, and that you can form a harmonious and net of coexistence without bringing God into the picture.
I think I've understood both of your questions, and let me answer them one after another. The answer to the first one is very simple. What do you say to a person who wakes up the morning after and is completely happy and is just totally fulfilled doing things their own way? My answer to that person is, will you give every other human being the same privilege? Do whatever you want to do to find happiness. What if a person has no boundaries but finds happiness in killing, in raping, in destroying, in stealing, in plunder? You immediately invoke a moral law in order to say something is wrong. You have to brand some things wrong. And when you brand some things wrong, you have to say, what is the basis of that? I know people in the world that I have seen who have a completely different definition of right and wrong to yours and mine. But I don't give them the prerogative to define it on their own terms. So if there's no objective, I'm not the only one to say this. Great philosophers, Bertrand Russell, Kai Nielsen, Stephen Jay Gould, a scientific philosopher, all of them have said the problem with our philosophy is it makes moral pronouncements without the right to moral objectivity. So happiness is not the end result. Happiness is a byproduct of that which also ought to be morally guided and bounded. It's as simple as that. And if I cannot give everybody that prerogative without making judgments, then I'm playing God. So fulfillment is not the only thing. It is evident in our world that fulfillment is not there, but even if fulfillment is there, it's not the only test for whether I may live that way or not. Bertrand Russell, bicycling one day on his own bicycle in Cambridge, decided he was going to walk out on all of his relationships. Those relationships from which he walked out didn't quite like the man for that, but he did what he liked. He did what he wanted. So reasoning existentially from happiness alone is not the only point of reference for whether fulfillment ought to be pursued or not. In fact, Jean-Paul Sartre himself said, the problem with my philosophy of the pursuit of happiness is that the only question I can't answer is why I don't end up committing suicide at the same time. Because happiness is not the only ultimate pursuit. It has to be bounded by truth. So even if your assumption is right, that not everybody who pursues their own life is not unhappy, if I grant you that, I'm still saying that is not a justifiable way of justifying life because I am happy. There has to be more to it. That's why I said truth is the second thing. Now,